Good evening, everyone. I'm Camille Nash, and welcome to the bullpen. So, listen, we're in season 2, and we are excited all season long. We're going to be talking about meaningful relationships. If you have been on this journey with me for any length of time, you know already that I have an affinity for whales. And I'd love to tell you that it was birthed out of some melodic story where you could hear the violins playing in the background. No, yet in good godly fashion, God would allow me to take those lemons and turn them into lemonade. Now, I call it the bullpen because the male whale is called the bull. You get it? Also, the bullpen is where all action goes down, especially in the marketplace. So, tonight we're going to be talking all about self-love. There's a lot of conversation around self-love. Is it narcissism? Is it too much to be self-absorbed? What does God say about self-love, self-respect, self-interrogation? So tonight, I want to introduce you all to a gentleman that I met it's been a couple months now in another group that I serve in, and also that we glean from one another in. It's called the Den, one of my den mates. And I said this season I'm going to actually start sharing more about who these folks are, and in different spaces where I serve with them and or even meet them. God has a way on how He will certainly introduce or connect you with kindred spirits of people. So I want to hear from you all. Put some fire in the chat. If you're on YouTube, if you're wherever you are watching this, if you're listening on a replay, on audio with a podcast, but if you are in the chat anywhere, if you can find your fingers to it, I want you to put some love in the chat. Also, I'd be remiss not to share with you. You're like, I don't know if I want to follow you yet. Well, you do. Trust me, you do. I want you to, for a moment, go over to the bullpen show with me, Camille Nash, the redhead, and just get involved with all the conversation that's going on. That's where you're going to find all of our guests that have been on the show and those that are coming. So most people are asking me, well, Camille, why do you want to have conversations with men? Well, it's a great question. It's because during the pandemic, as I like to call it, the plandemic, there was a lot of conversation, whether that was boardrooms, courtrooms, tons of social media rooms. I got tired really of hearing men attempt to tell women how to live their lives and women attempting to tell men how to live their lives. Hence the reason why here at the bullpen, I'm inviting men in so you can hear it directly from their mouth to your ears, what it's like to be a man. Who better can you learn from other than a man himself? So let me not belabor the time, and let me bring to the platform, introduce to some and present to some and introduce to others. That in the form of Travis Grayson to the platform. Woo!
Who. Big energy, big energy.
That's
Yes,
right.
yes, yes. Uh,
Because if it's not big, what's the
Thank you
point of
so
it?
much.
If it's not
Exactly.
big,
If we
what's
don't
the
go
point of
big,
it?
let's go home. Right.
That's right. If
Go
it's
big or
not
go
big,
home.
what's the point of it? So, Travis, I have heard you talk a lot about self
Right,
love
right.
and self respect. And, sometimes we're going to get into, I really want to know, is there a form of too much of self love or self grandizing? Is there a form of too much? Can there be too much?
To others, it may be too much, but to yourself, it can never be too much. You can never love yourself enough because we love others so much and we pour out so much. We have to have a season or a period of time that you love yourself unconditionally, that you really love
Mhm.
yourself unconditionally. So it's never too much for you, but it can come off that you're being selfish to others because you're loving on yourself first, that you're putting yourself first. So it can come
Mm.
off that to others, but to you, it's never enough. It's never enough.
So your
It's
thought
never
process that is
enough.
never enough. So tell our audience a little bit about you. Something that they wouldn't have heard in the introduction. What Tell the audience something about you and how you've come to find yourself in this space of self love, especially as a man. I know I've known this gentleman for quite some time, and he can tell you more about himself certainly than I could outside of his long bio that he sent me. But I really was moved by his encouragement, his wonderful spirit, and every time he shows up in the room, he's coming with a melody, and I just love that about him. So what couldn't wait to introduce you all to him so you can learn more about what it means to really love yourself. And I want to really dig into the exploration of individuality and the importance of togetherness, especially with this month being mental health or mental awareness for men. So, without further ado, Travis, tell our audience a little bit about you and what you hope to gain and share with the audience tonight in this conversation.
Good evening, everybody. I am Travis Grayson, better known as Grayson, the SAIS. I am your self-awareness implementation specialist. I help people become self-aware of who they are and whose they are by teaching them different biblical principles and universal disciplines to achieve a desired result in life. And we do this by one-on-one meetings. Virtual impromptus, or whatever your need is. I am so ecstatic just to be here in this space and place right now. Empress Camille, thank you so much for inviting me to your world. And I do call you Empress because we do understand that there's a difference between a queen and an empress.
Come on,
Queens
let the
rule
people know.
worlds,
Let them know.
queens
Let them
rule
know.
kingdoms, but empresses rule worlds. There's a
Let them know.
difference. Queen rule kingdoms, but empresses rule worlds. So you ruling your royal empress Camille. So I salute you on the day. We're talking about self-love. And some people may think that self-love is a little bit too much. And it
Mm,
may come off as being too much to them because they're seeing it from the outside. But they don't
mhm,
understand the things that you have went through within yourself. So
mhm,
you have to be able to love yourself because one of the things is, to thy own self be true. So
mhm,
even though it
mhm.
might come off of you being not so much as arrogant, but you're being selfish, you have to be selfish sometime for you because can't nobody outlove you better than you. Can't nobody outlove
Well,
you better than you.
well.
Period.
So Travis, I always believe that with every epiphany or every awakening, there has to be a story. And I would like to know from you, like what happened in your life. We can even go back to your childhood. Let's talk a little bit about your childhood. What was it like being young Travis and or Grayson as I call you? What was it like for you? Then what was the turning point for you where you had some type of awakening or a life-changing moment where you realized it was necessary for you to explore loving yourself?
As for me, as being a black young man growing up in an all black neighborhood, I have always been a big kid. My uncle, you say, I used to do this when I was little. He was like, "Nah, you ain't never been little." You know what I'm saying? You might have been younger, but you ain't never been little. I've always felt inferior. Right? Yeah, my family is whole comedians. I've always felt inferior because of my weight,
Mm,
because I've always been big. And for me, it was an issue. You know what I'm saying? I was the fat kid. I was fat this, fat that. So I always felt inferior because of my weight. And growing up, when I tell you, I am such a comedian because I used it as a defense mechanism growing up. I always made other people laugh to keep
yep.
them from really just looking at my weight. So
Yeah.
I'm always cracking jokes or whatever, and I was making people laugh. And at first, I used it as a defense mechanism, but as I
Mm,
began to grow into who I was, God used it as a talent, because now I shift atmospheres when I walk in the room because I'm confident in who I am and whose I am. And yeah, I'm
mhm.
still a big boy, but two things about me though, Camille, I promise you. I'm gonna be looking good and I'm gonna be smelling good. You hear me? I'm gonna represent. I mean, I'm a represent, and I've come out of that shell. Now that I'm grown, I'm older now. And when I hear women like, "Oh, you was a nice looking chocolate man," you know what I'm saying? It's kind of hard for me to receive because I never really
Mm,
received it, not even in my marriage a lot,
yeah, yeah. That's
not even in
really
my
real.
marriage. But
Mm,
I've oh yeah, this yeah, transparent moment.
hmm.
But
That's
when I became a young man, it kind of shifted. Um, and like I said, well, not a young man when I got married, because I was
mm,
still a country bumpkin, but I was a good comedian. But my wife at the time, she helped unveil the other side of me, the
mm,
creative side, as far
yeah.
as my dress. You know what I'm saying? Anytime if I come somewhere, I'm be dressed to kill, and not even though I have weight, I got the confidence behind me and the swag.
Come on. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
got both. I got both. So
Hmm.
it's like and now um that my confidence is up. Not only my confidence, but my competence of who I am. I'm
Hmm.
self-aware of who I am, and I know what I bring to the table because in actuality, I really bring my own self full course meal. So I don't let people treat me as a napkin at the table. I know my worth. So I'm
That's
I'm I'm
right.
confident in who I am, and
Hmm.
oh yeah. You ain't gonna treat me like no napkin because I'm a total asset, not a liability.
Yeah, yeah.
A total asset,
Have
not
you
a
always
liability.
had that confidence
But
even
it
as a
was that it
kid?
was doing that shift.
Yeah. Have you always had
Oh
that
no.
confidence even as a
Oh
kid?
Lord, no.
No. Okay. So let's talk about what life was like for you, uh,
No,
younger.
not really. It
Go ahead.
um well my grandmother raised me.
Hmm.
My grandmother raised me. And it's two things that she always taught me that I have carried throughout my life that has really set me aside in who I am. She taught me, she said, no matter what situation that you're that's going on in your life, um, always keep a smile on your face and a song in your heart. And even when I'm hurting, I'm always have a smile. I'm not gonna show my hurt to everybody. I'm always be smiling. And if you're hurting or if you're going through, I'm gonna be smiling and I'm gonna do something or say something that's gonna shift your day. So, like I said, that's how I was brought up, and that became one of the key things um, that people loved about me. But I had to learn to love myself first because I
So
always
what?
thought people picked at me because of my weight.
Hmm. Hmm.
I always thought that, but as I grew, I come to understand that I'm different and don't care who knows it. Something about me is not the same. Um, and that even in my individuality, my difference, that I had to learn to embrace myself. And that I'm always in big crowds. I love people. It's nothing I want to do for anybody. Um, or anything like that. So I had to really learn that not everybody is gonna like you.
Well,
I'm not for everybody. I'm learning as I'm not for everybody.
well.
But to the ones that I am a great asset. I am a great friend. I am an encourager. I am that for them. But I had to really learn that I'm not for everybody.
So what was that?
Can't ride on
What was
everybody's boat.
can't write on everybody vote anyway? But what was that exploration like for you? Because that usually requires some work, right? And a lot of people don't want to do the heavy lifting. So my question becomes, what was the turning point for you, and what was the first thing you did to really dig into the importance of self-love and where it not be intertwined with narcissism or selfishness?
Um, for me, I believe it was going back to knowing my worth,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I am somebody. I am worthy of being in areas and places with people that I bring something to the table. I know my self-worth. And it really took a lot of training on my end. I had to do a lot of reprogramming in my mind because a lot of times our own self-talk can really mess us up. What you're saying to yourself, we got different voices that we hear. You know what I'm saying? Everybody say, "Oh, I
Mhm.
hear the word of God. I hear God speaking." But the voice that's most prevalent in your life is your own voice, because we
Mhm.
talk to ourselves the most. So I had to learn to change my communication with self.
Mhm.
That was
Mhm.
the first and key thing that helped me pivot from that area.
And that sounds really good. So what were some of the first things you had to do to be able to do that? Because you had to learn some new skills, right? A lot of families, especially people of color, right? We come from backgrounds or families where they make jokes to make light of life. And but sometimes those experiences can scar us in some ways, right? So and I know I'm right about it. Sometimes it takes people years to really overcome those experiences. So you had to have some real hard conversations with yourself or have the multiple difficult conversations. What are some of the things that you had to do right away to realize not only am I worth it, but I've got to do the work to get on the other side of it? What were some of the things you had to do right away?
I had to change my mindset. Number one, I had to
Mm-hmm.
change my thought process of how I thought about me. Because we all know that everything starts with the thought. Thought becomes an feeling or emotion. Emotion become habits, and habits become action. And once it gets down that line, then it's hard to change it. So I had to start at the first step, which is the thought process. I had to think differently about Grayson.
Mm-hmm.
I had to
So,
shift that and who I was.
mm-hmm. So where'd you get your downloads from? Like where'd you get the input from? Input determines output. So is it because you come from faith or where'd you get it from? Where'd you get your marching orders?
Um, Majority of it was from faith. I've always been a part of the church, but
Mhm.
not so much as the four walls church, because I do understand that I am the church, I am the
Mhm.
temple. Um, so I've had a lot of spiritual leaders that have really poured into my life and really saw the diamond that I was, and helped get
Mhm.
rid of some of that coal and a lot of pressure. Pressure produces diamonds. And it was a lot of
Right.
pressures that was on my life that these men of God actually saw the finished product even when I didn't see it, and they began to pour into me and build me up into who I am. I mean, I'm so grateful for my upbringing, for my spiritual leaders, and
Mhm.
they didn't think less of me. Even when I didn't see it in my own self, they saw it beforehand, and they took time to groom that within me.
Right. That's so good. So it sounds to me like you've had a number of mighty men in your life that have been influential, able to make deposits to change your trajectory. And we know that there are thousands of people around the world that will listen to our conversation that may not have that. So let's talk practical. Let's talk about what are some things that, or some steps, if you will, or tips, whichever, whatever you would like to share. What can someone do that may not have that leverage of input or influence in their life? What can they do right now to begin to shift the way they think as a man?
Look, as a man, the first thing that you're gonna have to do, um, because we do understand that communication is the number one meta skill that it is. We get better by words. So it's our communication. You have to
Mhm.
learn how to talk to self. That's the first and main thing. We have to learn how to talk to self. And we do understand that as men, our communication skills have not always been up to par.
Well,
Because if we can go, I can take this all the way back to the garden.
yeah.
And really, truth be told, it was the silence of Adam that really
Mm-hmm.
caused us to fall. because he was standing right there, but he didn't open up his mouth. So we've always had a communication problem as men.
Mhm.
Um, so that's the first step. That's the most powerful tool that you can have is communication. So first you gotta learn how to communicate with yourself
Mhm.
first and foremost. In order to get that change, you gotta be able to talk to yourself. Um, know your worth and who you are. So that's the main key is the communication and the communication with self.
Okay.
Absolutely, got to have the communication with self. That's gonna be
So
the first thing that you do.
when we
Secondly,
talk about self, what we're saying to self, I always think about let a man or a woman examine themselves, right? Examine yourselves. I always think about it. God could have said, I'm examining you, but no, he says you examine yourself. Of course, that instruction is before communion, but that instruction is pivotal in everything we do, right? So if we're looking at let a man or woman examine themselves, and we're looking at our thought life. So
absolutely.
what are we saying to ourselves? And what are we allowing in our ear gates? That could take us on a whole nother road, Travis, right there, talking about what people are listening to, what they're watching, what's going in these ear gates and eye gates when it comes to
Listen,
preservation. So what should they be listening to?
listen,
What,
and
what,
it,
what,
and
what should
it's
they be
it
watching?
is listen. You have to make sure that you're listening to positivity,
Mm-hmm.
something that's speaking to you to bring you to a different place in space.
Mm-hmm.
Not just any old. You can't just let anything into those gates because what like I said, what goes in, that's what's coming out.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
and you have to be mindful that when you're taking in these different things of positivity, things that are building you up, that'll help you know who you are, that your audio is matching your video.
Come on here.
There has to be a match. Your audio got to match your video. You can't be
Yes.
taking in all this good positive stuff, but yet you still speaking something opposite. Hello, somebody. Your audio has got to match your video because we
Yeah.
understand that life and death lies in the power of the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful what you say. And even a
Yeah.
lot of times that's why they have you do self-meditation and stuff. Even when you don't feel certain things that you are
Mm-hmm.
worthy, once you begin to speak that out your mouth and continually to say that, there's a compound effect that you're going to start seeing some type of results when you continuously doing that. So
Mm-hmm.
your audio
Mm-hmm.
got to match your video. You got to make sure that you're taking in good stuff and that you're speaking positive, that you're speaking life over your life.
Yeah, that's so good. How can understanding your own identity and values, how can that, because you're embracing who you are, looking at what's going your ear gates out and your eye gates, how can you doing that, like taking up getting a better understanding of your own identity, how can that improve your relationship not only with yourself but also with others, particularly in a male dominated environment? So particularly amongst men, how can that help? So the more you understand as a man
When you
your own
understand that,
identity, how does that improve your other relationships?
when you understand that, when you know who you are, when you identify with self, we understand that males are born but made.
Wait, say it again. Males are what?
Males are born. Males are born.
Uh huh.
You born male or female, but men are
Right.
made. There's
That's
a
right.
difference. So within that
Mm-hmm.
identity,
Tell,
yeah,
tell the people the difference.
within that
Tell the people the
identity,
difference. Tell them the difference. Tell them the
yeah,
difference.
you can. The difference is that when you can be born a male, but to become a man, it's a different set of structure and order that you have to acquire. There's an acquiredness to become a man. You just can't say, "Oh, I'm a man," just because you were born with certain tools. Hello, somebody. That don't make you a man. That makes you a male, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
difference. So there's a certain set of accountability tools that you have
Mm-hmm.
to acquire to become a man.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things are set. I mean, we can't let society dictate what they call a man. We go back to what the word says. It gives you all the criteria of the what a man is actually supposed to be.
So what I want to
There
know,
is a
since I
difference
know
between a
you
male
teach.
and a man, a big difference. But you have to know your identity of who you are.
Hmm. And because you teach this, I want to know. I want to dig into the teaching of this and self awareness and self respect, self love. I want to know, what do you teach your clients when it comes to maintaining a sense of self while being a supportive partner, friend, or family member? Like, what does that look like?
You're gonna always have to understand where you are, what space that you're in as self. And a
Mm,
lot of times we will over exaggerate ourselves in other people's lives. Um,
yeah.
and it becomes past being supportive to being you're no longer supportive. You think you Captain Save a hole. That you got to save them. I'm sorry. Yeah, you that it becomes what's the word I'm looking for? You're not supportive. It becomes that you are almost like you have to be their other form of God.
Mm,
And
okay.
in saying that, it's
So it's
where
like
if you're
you're
not
their answer.
all the
You're
way in
making
their
yourself.
life doing everything for them.
Mhm.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's the word. I'm trying to look at my tongue. I can't find the word. It's whereas you you become addicted to being there for somebody else all the time. And
Mm,
if they don't need you in
codependent.
that capacity, then
Codependency.
it's
It's
like
called
you want back.
codependency. It's codependency.
That's it. Codependent. I couldn't find it. You become codependent. Yeah. There's a difference between being supportive and codependent. Ah, thank you,
Yeah.
Camille.
Yeah.
You that's it off my tongue.
Uh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So
So
do
not
you,
being codependent.
not being codependent? So do you think that, is it, could it be that with a men generally being taught to be the provider, to be the protector, to be the supporter, generally, could it be that men take on the Superman mentality, that they can handle it all, and while at the same time there's a lot of remnants of things dropping in the midst of them thinking they're holding it all, because they won't ask for what they need and or get support.
And that's one of the key things, Camille, especially as being a man within myself, is that everybody want to put those responsibilities on you, but we've never learned how to handle those responsibilities. We haven't had the greatest role models in our lives
Yeah.
to really understand what that actually looks like in a
Mm,
family. And a lot of us, we're doing trial and error. We're doing trial
mhm,
and error because we really don't know. Um, I have four kids and two beautiful granddaughters. And all my kids are grown. Last year, 2023, my baby girl, she's 19 now. She graduated, and I've had conversations with them. And
mhm,
a lot of times we parent from places that we grew up in. And as a black man, the only way that we really know how to parent is through authority. You do what I say, not as I do.
right.
And that has really messed us up as a people. And I really thought about that, Camille. A lot of that come from really, as I look back through the ages, anything disciplinary. He, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna do what he say, but that really came back from slavery. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
what Master and them did. We
Yeah.
had to listen to what Master, we done what they say. If not, they beat us. Um, and so even though we're not in slavery, no, but that mindset, you know what I'm saying, I'm ruling my house with an iron fist. You know what I'm saying? You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna do what I say, especially as a black man. That's how we rule. And it's not so much as authority that I'm learning now in my latter years that I could have really ran my household with more so influence instead of
Oh yeah.
authority.
Hmm. That look, that's a
Influence,
whole word right there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a whole word right there. I actually
yeah,
just wrote it.
influence instead of authority.
Mhm. Well, because we're still influencing anyway. Even our influence is just by our very presence, it's by
Right,
how we live our life. Influence is more than just what we say, it's what we do. And I'm reminded hearing you say that, yes, a lot of it does stem from
right,
slavery, but it also
right.
stems
But
from
knowing,
not
but knowing,
walking
yes,
out what you know, right? Living because it's the truth that we know that sets us free. It will the word of God says that you know the truth and it will make you
right,
free,
right.
but you have to know it first. So perfect example is when the slaves were given freedom, granted freedom in 18 January of 1863. The slaves in Texas didn't get the memo or get like really understand it until June of 1865. 18 months later. So it's the truth
Right.
that sets you free. You got to know it
Before
first.
we have Juneteenth.
And and hence why we have Juneteenth. Exactly. So when we talk about what we know too many of the wrong things too. We've learned and adapted so many philosophies
Listen,
and lifestyles that don't serve us. So we're here to debunk all that here in the bullpen, Travis. We want to change the lives of men of all ages and
listen.
stages tonight.
Reprogram. Bullpen is reprogramming. Yes.
Come on. That's it. That's it right there. So how do you live this? How do you walk this life out with your family, setting new standards? Now, because you're not living, you don't operate or conduct your life the way maybe some of the men, even great influential men, have been for you in your life, and even some of those folks in your family. How are you walking this out differently before your children?
I'm learning to understand and know their voice and what their heart is saying. Not so much as what I tell them, but there has to be a two-way street when it comes to this. I can't just tell you, do this, and do this, do that. No, I have to be able to listen. A lot of times, us as men, we don't like to listen. Um, to either from our spouse or our kids or any other authority figure. We have an
Mm,
issue listening,
mm,
and that has really hindered us um, as a species
mm,
because we understand that, what I'm saying, when you hear certain things, it will actually help you. Um, and we're not, as I stated in the beginning, we're not good communicators. We as men, we got to learn how to communicate better. Um, and when I say communicate, we have to be able to articulate our emotions. We only know two emotions that we can articulate. That's anger.
yeah.
We don't mind showing that. We don't mind showing that we upset that you done teed us off. You know what I'm saying? We can show that, but a lot of men we don't show a lot of love because we think that is a weakness because society has taught us that that's a weakness that you show love. Um, my oldest son, he's 28 years old, y'all, and as a young man with his own kids, um, he has never. He's so respectful. Camille, I'm proud of him. Um,
Mm,
he has never let society dictate his love for his father. I don't care if it's 1,000 people out there at the basketball court.
mhm.
If I come out there, Camille, and
Yeah.
I get ready, if I'm out there, if I'm leaving, he gonna stop me. He gonna say, "Daddy, I love you." He gonna tell me that he love me in front of him. He's like, I love you, Daddy." I was like, "I love you too, son." You know what I'm saying? And it just, as men, once we get up, we get too macho for that. You know what I'm saying? We're too macho to really to show
Mm,
love, especially in front of other people. You know what I'm saying? Showing that
yeah.
spirit, that other side of us, that love. But we got to get out of that as men. We got to get
Mm,
out of that as men, but we have to learn how to communicate, and
mm.
that's not and not just for within ourselves, but even in relationship. Communication is not a suggestion; it's necessity.
It's a
That's
necessity.
how we have open and regular conversation with our partners. I, It's necessity. Yeah, you got that's how you got to have an open and regular, not just every now and then. We got to learn how to be regular with it, consistent with it, because we'll have a conversation, but it might be far and in between, and a lot of things
Yeah.
are going on that's transpiring. That's either deteriorating the relationship or other things that's going on. So we have to have that open and regular conversation with our partners. Uh, not so much even about their needs, but we got to learn how to articulate our needs, our
Hmm.
desires, and also our boundaries, Camille. And that's a
Oh well, look.
foundation on which
Wait, wait.
that we
Let's
can
go
really
ahead.
build a more tailored approach.
Yeah. Let's talk about boundaries because I hear self love. I hear self
Yeah,
compassion.
yeah.
I hear compassion. So let's talk about boundaries. I think that's wonderful what your son is able to do and still honors you in such a way that's powerful. It means that you've done some great things well. How do you set boundaries in relationships when it
Yeah.
comes to preserving yourself, when it comes to preserving your self
Um,
exploration and togetherness?
so we have to learn how to commit, how to set clear boundaries and respect each other's need for space and independence. Now, when you're doing this, this can really help prevent feelings of resentment or suffocations and foster help you to foster trust between each other. Because we do understand that trust is one of the most critical components of any relationship. And by us learning to respect each other's boundaries, we're really showing that we trust our partner or our other half to make a decision that's best for them. Not just for they can make a decision that's best for them. So it's like you got to have not only you have to have platonic relationships too. You have to set boundaries that I can't be up under you 50, 11 days out of the week, all the time. We have to have space where I can still be who I am individually, not only while we're together. So with those boundaries, we actually learning to um, get some type of equilibrium between our independence and our togetherness, and it's gonna bring forth a lot of compromise on both parts. There has to
Yeah.
be some type of compromise, and it may involve us having to adjust our schedules, our priorities, just to accommodate the individual pursuit or the shared moments of us being together. So we have to be able to come to a common ground, a
Hmm.
common ground.
So
And
true.
I know it's easier said than done, and we all know that doing this
Yes.
can be challenging. But are you up to the challenge? We got to be,
So I'm so glad
we
you
have to
mentioned
be up
that
for the
because the
challenge.
first thing coming to my mind is okay, what are some examples? So like the day starts out weird and crazy. What are some examples or of so what are some things that you encourage or on the regular with folks to setting boundaries when it comes to building trust, maintaining trust while preserving self? Building trust, maintaining trust while preserving self.
We have to be able to have the yeah, we have to have the allotted time to understand that the other person, they got different interests, hobbies, and passion. So we must learn how to celebrate their achievements. And
Ooh,
once you celebrate their achievements, you're able to really understand more of self. Um, and once you're celebrating them, you're teaching them how to celebrate you and your individuality. So it's within those boundaries that we understand that I can't take up all of their life. Even though we're together, we still have two different lives. And
yeah.
so it's within those boundaries that we're able to keep those separated. And that's what they look like. You know what I'm saying? We got different hobbies. I love to go to the movies, but for me, I can just chilling at home reading a book. I'm
Hmm.
good with that.
Hmm.
I don't have to be on the scene all the time.
Yeah.
So there has to be a commonality, a common ground, a compromise.
So, what would you say is how can men balance their growth, like as they're walking through these steps of change and embracing growth, what are some ways that men can create harmony? I don't believe in balance. I believe that balance will never balance anything, because to be in balance, something else is always out of balance in some area. I believe that we can really harness
Facts.
and garner ourselves to find harmony. So when it comes to creating harmony for men, how can men do that in such a way where they still meet the needs and dynamics of their families?
By having that listening ear,
Hmm.
you have to have that ear to hear the heart of the relationship, not what they're saying, but what they're not saying. So you have to be able to listen to the heart of the relationship, which is the undertone of what's actually being said. Because,
Yeah.
excuse me, we do understand. And I'm not gonna get on our sisters, but women,
Come
they
on.
say one thing, but they really be meaning another. And if we don't
Okay, so let's
understand
so wait, wait, wait,
their
wait, wait.
love
Let's
out,
pause. Hold on. Hold on, because we talking
I
to the
try to
men
slide.
now.
I try to slide by that.
You tried,
Okay,
you tried it. Okay. So we talking to the men though. So that's real. It's a real subject matter, right? So sometimes we as a people, period, but we're talking about the men right now. So women do it too, and we know men do it as well. So let's talk about how that impacts men when we say one thing
right,
and
right,
mean
and that's what
another.
I'm finna. I'm bringing it together. I'm bringing it together. I'm bringing it
Okay.
together. So yeah. Let me get there. So I'm saying this to my brothers. You have to be in tune to what she's not saying. That's what I'm trying to say. You have to be in tune to what she's not articulating with her words. You have to look for body language, for cues, um, facial expressions. Those are going to be key elements that's going to help you in that area. That's what I was saying, because a lot of times they're not going to articulate it through words exactly. So we have to watch the different cues that they give off, the body language, the facial expressions, all that go intact, because they might be saying one thing, and if we're not in tune to that, then we're going to miss it, and it becomes a deeper wedge between them.
Yeah, that's so good too, because we know that that happens every day, happens all the time in relationships. There's a breakdown in communication. I like I said, I created the space because I got so tired of men trying to tell men trying to tell women how to live, and vice versa. When we look at how has your family embraced this change for you, with you putting yourself first to a degree? I think I heard or saw something. I think it might have been both. I saw something in social media maybe a week or so ago, and the guy, it was on the B side. I love that preacher over there, and he was talking about um, how men really do have to garner themselves in such a way and position themselves in such a way to realize not only are they leading the family, but they got to have the weight to be able to carry the family. Like, how does that feel for a man, and or do a lot of men really understand the brevity of that, of what that really means and requires for the family?
Um, Within that, Camille, a lot of times, and I'm speaking to especially to our young men out there. Um,
Mm.
Learn before you get a family how to be
Come
whole
on.
within yourself. eh, how to be whole within yourself.
Mhm.
Because when I got married, I was broken, and I thought by getting married that I was gonna be able to help her and she was gonna be able to help me, but we was actually two broken people, which
Yeah.
made more shattered pieces. So learn
Mm.
how to be whole within yourself before you get married. And I know we done shifted before you get married, because when you don't become whole within yourself before marriage, you'll practice on your family.
Woo! Woo! That's a whole
Your
word right
family will be
there.
your practice ground.
Woo!
Yeah, yeah,
And
your family will
listen,
be your
and
practice
listen,
ground if you
wait,
don't
wait,
learn this
wait.
beforehand.
Come on here. Look, just think about that. Like, let that sit for a minute. Your family will be your practice ground. So you know if you practicing, there's going to be some casualties. OMG, my God,
Yeah, yeah.
there's going to be some
And you don't,
casualties.
and you want to,
Lord.
and you want to be able to bring substance to your family. You want to be able to
Yeah,
hold the weight
right.
because we know, look, weight, weight broke down the wagon. If you're not equipped as a man to handle that weight, then you're gonna have a whole nother slew of issues that's gonna follow in behind that, from mental to physical to emotional.
Yeah,
That's gonna cause other things. So us as men, we have to learn how to do that shadow work. And a lot of us as men, we don't want to talk about our isms and schisms. We want to keep it to the
well,
side, but but it's gonna always show up.
yeah,
What you don't what you don't work up can't be worked out.
yeah, yeah. That's so good.
What's not
So what?
worked up cannot be worked out.
What's not worked up can't be worked out. Yeah, that's so so good. What a tweetable moment, and even in that, what has it been a? I don't believe I won't say easy. How has it been for your family embracing this new Grayson? Because you had to learn it. So how has it been for the family embracing this new version of you?
Um, it's been very challenging.
Okay,
For
that's
one,
real.
transparent moment. Me and my wife been separated for 6 years.
Mm,
Um, I've dealt with a 20 plus year drug addiction.
mm,
I've been clean going on almost 2 years now.
mhm.
Um, and I understand my plight and I understand the things that I have generated, Grayson. It's still kind of hard for them to receive. But
Mm,
we're talking. We have family meetings and whatever. We're to a different place and space, and they're now understanding my plight. Um, they understand. They've always known who I was, but to see me to begin to walk this thing out in life is so different. It's so different, and I understand that things that I've done in the past um, have had a long term effect
yeah.
emotionally,
Mm,
physically upon my family, and knowing that I'm no longer there. I don't let, I, and that's one of the another things that I do. I don't let people make me pay rent at a house that I don't live at no more.
right. Hmm. Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't
yeah.
make me pay rent at this address and I ain't lived there in 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. So good.
You can't make me pay rent there. So
Mm,
I understand um, the process, and everything in life is a process.
mhm.
Um, and when we learn how to get past our past, that's the thing. A lot of people can't get past your past. I just dust my feet and just keep going because long as I understand who I am and where I am and the place where God has brought me, it's it's just phenomenal. Camille, another transparent moment. This year has been such a year of leaping
Yeah,
of God quantum leaps in my life. Um,
yeah. So good.
I can actually say this is one of the first years of my life that, well, last year was the first year that I could ever look back on 20 at the year 2023, Camille. I look back, and when it gets to the end of the year, a lot of times we like to say, "I can't wait the next year." I'll be glad when this year is over with. I can actually look back on 2023 and say, God did his thing. Do you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
finished that
That's
year
so good.
strong. God did his, he did his thing in my life and through my life. That was the first time that I can remember that I can look back and say, I had some trials and tribulations. Don't get me wrong. But even through them, God preserved me and I was able to acquire a spirit of endurance.
Yeah.
A
So
lot of people
good.
don't have that. They can't endure everything. They're fold. You know what I'm saying? Certain things will make you snap, crackle, and pop. But
Right.
not only through God, I was able to hold that thing together. And I look back, Camille. I look back over that whole year, and I was like, you know what, boy, God, you did your thing for Grace. And do you hear me? You did your thing, and I
Yeah.
finished it strong. And it's been phenomenal this year. So I'm glad I don't look like what I've been through. I've learned how
My
to be
Lord.
transparent now, and letting people know where I come from. Because a lot of times people see the glory, but they don't know the story.
Mhm. Well, I think that that's
They
powerful
don't know the
because
story.
the
But
transparent
just to bring
moments
it back
are,
to simple things,
yeah, the transparent moments are really important. It's critical. It's how we grow. I'm reminded of a conversation that I heard about that we were talking about just difficult conversations, and I hear a lot of self self specialists, self first, self health, and self interrogation, all those things. I hear so much about it. What I don't hear a lot about is having the difficult conversations with yourself first. So having those difficult conversations with you so that then you can have them with other people. I'm reminded that a former first lady I had once told me that there are some things in life that we do that we are responsible for, that we just have to live them out. We have to live them down and move past it and let our life be different than what it's been. And that is the only way that we can move on, is by living through it. I want to ask you a question that I ask everybody. I know we're out of time, but never out of message. I can't believe we're almost done already. Our time has come to a close. These conversations really are so powerful. I hope that, man, I didn't even know that about you. I didn't know that part of your story. And God is so infinite in his wisdom to have me reach out to you to talk with you about this conversation, because there's somebody listening. There's somebody listening, Grayson, that is still at the onset of their journey. And they can't see the forest for the trees. And your life already is unrecognizable in just a couple of years. And I can't wait to see all that God is going to do for you. But I want to ask you this question before we close, and that is, I want you to look in that camera and I want you to tell our audience, what is the lesson that took you the longest to learn?
the lesson that took me the longest to learn, Empress Camille, I would say is knowing that no matter what situation or circumstance is, no matter what I've done in the past, that God can forgive me and I can move forward from that place. A lot of times people get stuck in something that they've done and they get stuck in their past. Learn that was the hardest thing for me to learn, that I can get past my past, because a lot of times now I was stuck in my thinking patterns. Um, so if I could let anybody know, if you can get past your mindset, how you view yourself, that was one of my hardest things. Seeing myself in a different degree of the renewed, regenerated me. I would say that would be the hardest thing, the longest thing that took me to really understand, is
Mm-hmm.
that I can get past that.
And you could get past it. Well, you know what? Listen, it's been my privilege and pleasure to have you tonight. This has been really rich. I do hope that those of you that are listening will go out and tell the people where they can find you, Travis. Tell the people where they can find you.
Listen, you can find me on Facebook at Grace by Grayson, Instagram Trap Grayson. Oh yeah, just a quick little shout out. So Camille, I don't know if you know or not. Last month, I just dropped my own fragrance line. I have my own
Yeah.
fragrance line now.
Uh-huh.
Grayson's Smell of Greatness.
Yeah.
We have a cologne for men, which
Mhm.
is Shadez, and we have a perfume for the women, which is called Grace by Grayson. Both of those These
So
scents are uniquely within themselves, often imitated but never www. Grayson, GRAYSON,
mhm.
OG.com. GraysonSOG.com. That's what it
All
is.
right. Well, we'll make sure that we drop the links and everything for people to be able to find you. We'll make sure all that's included so that people can go out and check out those fragrances and stay connected with you and all that God is doing in your life. And again, it's been my pleasure to have you tonight. I couldn't have said it any better. So thank you for reminding me about the fragrance, and that will allow folks to stay connected to you. Again, it's been a pleasure to have you tonight, and I do expect
Absolutely.
to see you again and see you in the bullpen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, wasn't that powerful? My goodness, Grayson is something else. And you know what, you all, I gotta tell you, he was mild tonight. See, he was being a little polite tonight. He is just really, really a remarkable man who tells his story. I hope that you were able to gain something really valuable out of that. So tonight, really, my wealth theory is pretty simple. I mean, I just really want to remind us the importance of taking care of ourselves. What we do to be the best version of who we are and all that God is calling for in our lives. We have got to show up and show up strong. And so I want to just remind us the importance of when it comes to my will theory tonight is what do you really think about you? What do you think about you? And what are you saying to yourself? Are you willing to have the difficult conversation? More importantly, I love what Grayson said when he said you have to be willing to get past your past because it's yours, your journey, your journey. So I hope this has been wonderful tonight. It's certainly been my delight to serve you in this way. I want to remind you again, make sure you go over to the Bullpen Show with me, Camille Nash, the redhead, so you don't miss one moment of anything going on here in the Bullpen. And I will see you on the very next episode of the Bullpen. Good night.